الغارة.
On April 27, Dr. Mohammed Muaz, the last pediatrician in Aleppo, was killed in an airstrike targeting Al-Quds Hospital, along with dozens of other medical personnel, children, women, and patients. Dr. Muaz had refused to flee the inferno that Aleppo had become with his family to Turkey, choosing to risk his own life in order to provide much-needed health care to the civilian population. CCTV footage of his last moments alive show him at work, ready to begin what would certainly have been one of many grueling shifts. Secretary of State John Kerry condemned the attack and pointed a finger of blame at the Syrian government. The airstrike on the hospital in the ravaged northern Syrian city, which occurred despite a nationwide cessation of hostilities technically being in force, was not the first of its kind by the Assad regime. Since the Syrian revolution turned civil war began, civilians have been deliberately targeted by Syrian military forces on numerous occasions. But Russia has proven to be Assad's joint accomplice in the escalating war against unarmed civilians since it threw its weight into the conflict in September 2015. U.S. officials said the strike fit a pattern of Syrian and Russian airstrikes targeting civilian infrastructure in advance of previous large urban assaults. Amnesty International said it has compelling evidence of at least 6 deliberate attacks on medical facilities in Aleppo in the first 3 months of 2016. It said the attacks amounted to war crimes. The monitoring group Physicians for Human Rights has documented 346 attacks against medical facilities in the course of the Syrian crisis, attacks which killed 705 medical staff. It said 315 of the attacks were conducted by Assad or Russian forces. A report by the group last year said the Assad regime systematically violated the principle of medical neutrality by targeting medical facilities and doctors, detaining patients, and arresting, torturing, and executing doctors. Even the UN's Human Rights Agency has turned up the rhetoric against the Security Council in light of the recent upsurge in violence. Rupert Colville, spokesman for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, denounced the Security Council's inaction on Syria.
Persistent failure of the Security Council to refer Syria to the International Criminal Court is an example of the most shameful form of realpolitik. In the minds of many people, the great powers have therefore in effect become accomplices to the sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of lives and the displacement of millions.
The magnitude of the humanitarian crisis and its impact on the civilian population continues to be severe. According to the Syrian Center for Policy Research, the war in Syria, now in its 6th year, has killed nearly 500,000 people as of February 2016. The UN Refugee Agency estimated that as of mid-2014, 10.8 million of Syria's 22 million population were affected by the crisis and in need of humanitarian assistance. The UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs estimates that as of March 2016, 13.8 million Syrians were in need of humanitarian assistance, 4.8 million had fled the country, and 6.6 million were internally displaced by the conflict. More than 4.5 million refugees are being hosted by Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt, with nearly 2.7 million in Turkey alone. The European Union and United States have also pledged to host varying numbers of Syrian refugees. Notably enough, none of the Gulf countries, including Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, or Bahrain, have offered to resettle any Syrian refugees. For now, the war continues to rage on with no end in sight, with the humanitarian crisis rising to levels not seen in a conflict since World War II. As Aleppo, Syria, and the medical community worldwide mourn the loss of a brave and selfless physician who spent his last moments saving lives, one cannot help but wonder if and when world leaders will step in to help bring an end to a brutal regime that continues to massacre its own people.